Welcome to Simple Understanding channel. In this video, we move to the third major section of the Certified Fraud Examiner exam, investigations. This is where theory meets reality, and where weak courses and superficial studying completely fall apart. This module trains you to think and act like a real fraud examiner, not just a student reading a book. The investigations section teaches you how a fraud case is built from the first suspicion to the final courtroom or boardroom presentation. It covers how examinations are planned, how evidence is identified and preserved, how interviews are conducted, how behavior is analyzed, how money is traced, how digital data is handled, how reports are written, and how findings are defended legally. The 15 core topics of this module include fraud examination methodology and phases, planning and predication, sources of evidence, testimonial, documentary, physical and digital, interview versus interrogation, behavioral analysis and baseline behavior, detecting deception and separating science from myths, taking written and signed statements, public records research, tracing illicit financial transactions, following money through bank records, analytical procedures, digital evidence and data preservation, documentation standards and working papers, report writing for legal defensibility, and presenting findings to management or in court. This module teaches you how fraud moves from suspicion to proof, from raw data to legally defensible conclusions. On Simple Understanding channel, you will find a complete free CFE course that covers all 4 sections, all modules, and all high-yield topics, explained in clear and simple language with practical examples, so you can truly grasp the key concepts, not just memorize them. And for those who want a full structured preparation, the link in the description contains our complete CFE study packages. Bundle 1 includes a complete study guide covering all 4 sections, including all mathematical and financial calculations you need for the exam. Bundle 2 includes more than 3,500 multiple-choice questions covering conceptual, scenario-based, legal, and quantitative topics, all with detailed answer explanations. Bundle 3 includes more than 1,300 flashcards with key terms and definitions. These bundles are designed to make you fully ready to pass the CFE exam from the first attempt. Also remember that all videos on Simple Understanding channel have closed captions and dubbed audio in many languages. Do not forget to turn on subtitles by clicking the CC icon so you can watch this video in your preferred language. Now let us begin today's lesson and start with the first 5 core investigation topics. 1. Fraud examination methodology and phases. Fraud examination follows a structured methodology that moves through specific phases: receiving allegations, assessing predication, planning the investigation, collecting evidence, interviewing witnesses and suspects, analyzing data, and reporting findings. The CFE exam tests your understanding that investigations are not random or emotional reactions. They are systematic, objective, and legally controlled processes. Each phase builds on the previous one, and skipping steps can compromise evidence and legal defensibility. In real cases, an organization may receive a hotline tip about expense fraud. The examiner does not immediately accuse anyone. Instead, they assess whether sufficient predication exists, design an investigation plan, secure documents, analyze transactions, conduct interviews, and only then reach conclusions supported by evidence. 2. Planning and predication. Predication means having a reasonable basis to believe that fraud may have occurred before launching a full investigation. Planning involves defining objectives, scope, resources, risks, and legal constraints. The exam emphasizes that investigations must be justified, targeted, and proportionate. Without proper predication and planning, an investigation may violate rights, waste resources, or collapse in court. For example, if unusual vendor payments appear in accounting records, the examiner must first confirm that the pattern is abnormal and potentially fraudulent before expanding into employee interviews or digital searches. A well-planned investigation prevents phishing expeditions and protects both the organization and the suspect's rights. 3. Sources of evidence: testimonial, documentary, physical, and digital. Evidence in fraud cases comes from four main sources. Testimonial evidence includes interviews and statements. Documentary evidence includes contracts, invoices, emails, and accounting records. Physical evidence includes items such as forged checks or storage devices. Digital evidence includes logs, databases, and electronic communications. The CFE exam requires you to know how each type is collected, preserved, and evaluated. In practice, a procurement fraud case may involve testimonial evidence from employees, documentary evidence such as purchase orders, digital evidence from email systems, and physical evidence such as altered invoices. Each type must be authenticated and preserved to be legally usable. 4. Interview versus interrogation. An interview is a non-accusatory process used to gather information, while an interrogation is an accusatory process designed to obtain admissions or confessions. The exam strongly emphasizes not confusing the two. Interviews are used with witnesses and information sources. Interrogations are used with suspects after sufficient evidence exists. In real investigations, an employee may first be interviewed to explain unusual transactions. Only after inconsistencies and evidence appear would a structured interrogation be conducted. Mixing the two can violate legal rights and destroy the admissibility of statements. 5. Behavioral analysis and baseline behavior. Behavioral analysis involves understanding normal behavior patterns and identifying deviations that may indicate stress, deception, or concealment. The CFE exam teaches that behavior alone never proves fraud, but it helps guide questioning and evidence evaluation. Establishing a behavioral baseline allows the examiner to recognize meaningful changes. For example, a normally confident finance manager may become evasive, defensive, or overly cooperative when questioned about certain accounts. While this does not prove guilt, it helps the examiner focus on specific areas and design more effective follow-up questions and evidence collection strategies.
Detecting deception is one of the most misunderstood areas in fraud examination. The CFE exam emphasizes that there is no single behavior that proves lying. Instead, deception is assessed through clusters of verbal, behavioral, and physiological indicators evaluated against a person's baseline. The focus is on consistency, logic, cognitive load, and response patterns, not on myths such as eye movement or nervousness alone. Fraud examiners must rely on structured questioning, corroboration, and evidence, not intuition or body language folklore. In real investigations, a suspect may appear calm while lying and anxious while telling the truth. What matters is whether their story changes over time, whether details collapse under follow-up questions, and whether their explanations align with documentary and digital evidence. Effective deception detection combines interview technique, timeline analysis, and factual verification. Taking written and signed statements. Written statements transform verbal testimony into formal evidence. The CFE exam stresses proper statement structure, clarity, voluntariness, and legal defensibility. A good statement must be in the subject's own words, chronological, factual, free from leading language, and signed to confirm accuracy. The purpose is to lock testimony in time and prevent later denial or modification. In practice, a witness may provide a verbal account of how a fake vendor was approved. The examiner then prepares a written statement, reviews it with the witness, corrects errors, and obtains a signature. This statement can later be used in disciplinary hearings, civil litigation, or criminal court.
Quick reminder, if you're finding this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with anyone who may benefit. Your support really makes a difference. Let's get back to it.
8. Public records research techniques. Public records provide independent, legally obtainable evidence about people, companies, assets, and transactions. The exam covers how to search corporate registries, property records, court filings, licensing databases, bankruptcy records, and social media. These sources help establish ownership, relationships,
hidden assets, prior fraud, and conflicts of interest. In real cases, a fraud examiner may discover that a vendor is secretly owned by an employee's relative by checking company registration records. Property searches may reveal unexplained wealth. Court records may expose prior lawsuits or criminal history relevant to motive and pattern of behavior. 9. Tracing illicit financial transactions. Tracing transactions means reconstructing the flow of money from source to final destination. The exam tests your ability to follow funds through accounts, identify layering, and recognize laundering techniques such as structuring, round-tripping, and use of shell entities. This requires understanding transaction cycles, account analysis, and financial linkages. For example, kickback payments may be routed through consulting companies, then transferred to personal accounts, and finally invested in assets. By mapping transfers, dates, amounts, and account ownership, the examiner can demonstrate the full path of misappropriated funds. 10. Following money through bank records. Bank records are one of the strongest forms of objective evidence. The exam emphasizes bank statements, canceled checks, wire transfers, ACH logs, deposit slips, and loan files. Fraud examiners must understand how to reconcile accounts, identify unusual patterns, detect commingling, and link transactions to individuals and entities. In practice, analysis may reveal that an employee deposits company checks into a personal account, that round number transfers occur after vendor payments, or that lifestyle spending exceeds known income. Bank analysis often provides the financial proof that connects suspects to stolen funds and supports both civil recovery and criminal prosecution. 11. Use of analytical procedures. Analytical procedures involve examining financial and operational data to identify unusual patterns, trends, and relationships that may indicate fraud. The CFE exam tests your ability to apply ratio analysis, trend analysis, Benford's law, variance analysis, and expectation modeling to detect anomalies. These tools help focus investigations on high-risk areas and support conclusions with objective, quantitative evidence. In real cases, an examiner may notice that expense ratios increase while revenue remains stable, or that certain transaction amounts repeat unnaturally. Such patterns can point to fabricated entries, split transactions, or manipulated accounts, guiding deeper examination.
Digital evidence and data preservation. Digital evidence must be collected and preserved in a way that maintains its integrity and admissibility. The exam emphasizes proper imaging, access controls, metadata preservation, and documentation of handling. Any alteration or loss of data can compromise legal defensibility and allow challenges to authenticity. In practice, when seizing a computer or server, forensic copies are created, hashes are recorded, and access is restricted. Emails, logs, and transaction records are preserved exactly as they existed to prevent claims of tampering. Documentation standards and working papers. Working papers are the permanent record of the investigation. They must clearly show what was done, why it was done, how evidence was obtained, and how conclusions were reached. The exam stresses organization, objectivity, completeness, and clarity, as these documents may be reviewed by management, regulators, attorneys, or courts. In real investigations, properly maintained working papers allow another examiner to reconstruct the entire case, verify procedures, and defend findings against legal challenge or professional scrutiny. Report writing for legal defensibility. Investigation reports must present facts, analysis, and conclusions in a clear, objective, and legally sound manner. The exam tests your understanding that reports should separate facts from opinions, avoid speculation, cite evidence, and follow logical structure. The goal is to communicate findings in a way that supports disciplinary action, recovery, or prosecution. In practice, a well-written report summarizes the allegation, scope, methods, evidence, findings, and recommendations.
It may become the primary document used by attorneys, executives, or judges, so precision and neutrality are essential. Presenting findings to management or court. Presenting results requires the ability to explain complex financial and investigative information clearly and confidently to non-experts. The exam highlights the importance of credibility, clarity, and consistency in oral testimony and presentations. Fraud examiners must defend their methodology, evidence, and conclusions under questioning. In real cases, an examiner may brief a board of directors, testify in court, or support settlement negotiations. Effective presentation ensures that the evidence is understood, trusted, and acted upon, completing the investigative process from suspicion to resolution. This completes Module 3, Investigations. In this module, you learned how a fraud case is built from the first allegation to the final report and courtroom presentation. You covered investigation planning and predication, sources of evidence, interview and interrogation techniques, behavioral analysis and deception detection, statement taking, public records research, money tracing, bank analysis, analytical procedures, digital evidence handling, documentation standards, report writing, and how findings are presented to management and in court. This section teaches you how theory becomes legally defensible proof and how a fraud examiner thinks, works, documents, and testifies in real cases.
On Simple Understanding channel, you will find a complete free CFE course that covers all 4 sections, all modules, and all high-yield topics, explained in clear and simple language with practical examples, so you can truly grasp the key concepts, not just memorize them. And if you are preparing seriously for the CFE exam and want a full structured preparation, the link in the description contains our complete CFE study packages designed to help you pass from the first attempt. In the next and final video, we will move to Module 4, Fraud Prevention and Deterrence, where we focus on fraud risk assessment, internal controls, ethical culture, behavioral red flags, and how organizations design systems to prevent fraud before it happens. Before you leave, subscribe to Simple Understanding channel, like this video, and share it with anyone preparing for the CFE. And comment below and tell us what you think about this CFE series and that you want the full course to continue until all 4 sections are fully mastered.